Hello everyone and welcome. Glad to see such a big turnout here at Brandon University for BU Asks the Brandon-Souris Candidates Forum. My name is Michael Harkman. I'm the chairperson for the Canadian Federation of Students Manitoba. The CFS is a national organization and our campaign is called It's No Secret. It's a way of mobilizing students to get out and vote and become engaged with election 2015. The questions that we have today will be the main focus of the debate. We're hoping for a really policy-oriented debate. Came from students and community members that they submitted directly. So we likely won't be having questions from the ground, simply because there's only an hour, but the questions did come from students directly, so it's a nice kind of direct democratic process. I'll introduce next Aaron, who's going to introduce our moderator.
Hello, I'm Aaron Thompson, President of Brandon University Students Union. I just want to say thank you all for coming today. We have a wonderful debate as such. We're going to meet all of our candidates and know a little bit about voting in the Brandon-Souris region. Just so I can echo some of what Mike was saying, there are questions from the community at large and from Brandon University students. We have picked from a number of questions and we appreciate all of your input. Now without further ado, I think we should get started right away. We're going to introduce our moderator here.
I'm Kelly Saunders. I teach in the Department of Political Science here at Brandon University, and really great to see so many students and faculty members and community people that have come out today. We really appreciate it. Just to go over the format a little bit, building on what Michael and Aaron just mentioned, the questions were drawn from students and the community, so it's really exciting, especially given the fact that we're here at BU campus. The questions were provided in advance to each of the candidates, so they have had a chance to develop their responses to them. There's 5 questions that I will be asking. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and then we are allowing for a 30-second rebuttal for any of the other candidates, if you so wish. You certainly aren't required to rebut if you don't feel that that's appropriate or necessary. We will begin with a 2-minute introduction, so each candidate will have an opportunity to provide some introductory comments, and then we will close at the very end with 1-minute closing. And then we did randomly draw the order for both the opening statements as well as the closing statements will be in reverse order from how we drew. So when we did the draw, David Neufeld was first, and that's why we put them in the order that you see them sitting there today. So we'll begin with the 2-minute opening statements. We do have Michael over here that will be doing the timing. He will be holding up different colored sheets so you can have a sense of how much long you have, which is always nice to know when you're in the middle of making your comments. And depending on, if we do have a couple minutes left at the end, I'm not sure if we will because it is a pretty tight hour. We might have an opportunity for some maybe, but I'm not sure. So we'll see how that goes. But maybe we'll begin with the opening comments, beginning with Mr. Neufeld.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And this is our final debate after about 8 of them, I think. I've lost count. But we've all found where our buttons are that we can push each other. So hopefully we have a little bit of that kind of energy as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm from Boissevain area, Turtle Mountain. We have a small farm in the hills there. And I'm a greenhouse grower, guest housekeeper, homemaker, mentor for small-scale farmers. And I studied political science at the University of Waterloo, and after that went to Africa and worked under Bishop Desmond Tutu for 8 years, and that's where I got my real political education, and learned that I had to ask where power comes from. And I see that there are 4 kinds of power that each one of us has to deal with. That is the power of the natural world, the power of the civil society, which is us, power of the governments that we choose, and the power of large corporations that are increasingly trying to get the attention of our governments away from us. And so I see this as being an election, as all elections are, that the main issue is democracy. How do we assert our influence over our governments and our control really, over our governments so that they remain servants for us. And the Prime Minister's office has come under the spotlight, and that's what we're putting under the spotlight very much in this election, that they and the other party leaders have become all-powerful in determining what our members of parliament can say, how they vote, and so forth. And the Green Party is going in direct opposition of that and saying we have to restore democracy and control over our members of parliament, and I will definitely serve you well.
My name is Melissa Wastazakut, and I am a square of 3 from Vancouver's First Nation. I'm really happy to be here, living here in Dakota Territory. Just want to acknowledge that. And I've lived here for the past 4 years with my 2 kids, Maxine and Abraxas. And I was born in Brandon while my parents attended BU. And that was a long time ago, obviously. Things were a lot different back then. You know, tuition wasn't as high, but we were lucky enough to live in a small community called Ozarkwan, which was just out of Rivers. I have really good memories of that place. Also, you know, my parents were really great influence on us as kids. They always really put across the importance of being active community contributors, and also, you know, taught us about politics and things like that. So that was really important for us growing up. And I also know the struggles of being a student. I was a mature student here just a couple of years ago, and I took out student loan my first year. Finding housing was crazy for me. Like, I literally found my apartment like days before we came here. So we were really lucky. I just want to let you know that some of the struggles, I know some of the struggles of being a student. NDP has a really great platform for post-secondary students, including housing, youth employment, and healthcare, and it's important that all your needs are looked after by your government. And I believe that taking a holistic view of the students' needs is also important. If you take a look at our website, ndp.ca, you can see our full platform now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have spent 18 years working here as a lawyer in Westmount. I've been practicing family law and child protection primarily. And as much as I love my day job, I decided to set it aside and run in this election because I think we can do better as a country and in our local riding. We need change. And I don't think I have to tell you that we need change. A lot of you students weren't very old in 2006 when Stephen Harper became Prime Minister, but you know what the decade under the Harper government has been like. We've had court fights against veterans and First Nations, $750 million in taxpayers' money spent on advertising themselves, poor relationships with the provinces, cancellation of the Protected Waterways Act, which used to protect 3 million of our Canadian lakes, gone. We've pulled out of the Kyoto Protocol on climate change. We've made deep cuts to science and the military. Our Navy is now inferior to that of Bangladesh, even though 70% of our borders are coastal. We know that post-secondary education and housing is becoming more and more unaffordable, and jobs are harder to come by. So we need change. So what's your alternative? The Liberal Party under Justin Trudeau has a plan to kickstart the economy. We would provide a middle-class tax cut by asking the top 1% to pay a little more. We would provide money for families, students, seniors, provide much-needed investment in infrastructure, including affordable housing, childcare, and become a world leader in innovation, green technology, and energy. We'd also make much-needed reforms to government, including more free votes for MPs, Senate reform, creating a chief science officer, and creating a youth advisory council, which would have a council of 16 to 24-year-olds advising the Prime Minister. Our plan is for real change, and it's what we need here in Westmount. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to congratulate Brandon University and the Federation of Canadian Students organization here for hosting this important debate here this afternoon as well. As David said, it's our last debate, and so I look forward to the questions that you've prepared to have us answer this afternoon. We all know, first of all, I want to say, I guess in introducing myself a little bit, that I grew up on a farm in Elgin. That's where I learned hard work, and I guess if something needed fixing, we just kind of had to go and fix it. I've carried that work ethic with me through my public life as a farm leader in Western Canada, right here in Manitoba as well, being the MLA in Arthur Vernon for 14 years, as well as the last 22 months as your member of Parliament in Ottawa. We've been able to accomplish a lot. We've been able to put some infrastructure programs in place right here in Brandon. We've got the largest Canadian infrastructure program in Canadian history at about $85 million. And we've presently tripling the size of the Brandon Airport. We've got the dikes being finished to protect us from future flooding right here in the Assiniboine. And of course, secured funds to take away the congestion on 18th Street by getting the lane for the bridge 4-lane as well. We all know that our young people are the future. They're the future leaders of our country and the future leaders of our businesses and our homes. Education and creating opportunities for young people is a priority for any government, and it's the most important job I think the government can do. That's why I've worked tirelessly to make sure that we've got more accessibility and availability and affordability to ensure that every student gets the opportunity to have the education that they want to meet the needs of our jobs for tomorrow. I'm focused on creating new jobs in Westman, and that's probably partly a major part of why I'm so interested in making sure that we grow our economy here. I pledge to continue to be that strong voice right here in Westman for your futures, and I look forward to answering the questions that you've provided today as I said earlier. Thank you very much for attending today's meeting.
Okay, we'll begin with the first of the 5 questions, and I'll be asking Ms. Wostasakut to respond first, and then we'll proceed from there with the rest of the candidates. So the first question, over 70% of jobs require some sort of post-secondary education, and education, as we know, is often a critical way out of poverty. What will you and your party do to increase the accessibility of post-secondary education?
Well, I just want to point out that the NDP has the youngest caucus in history, so we take our youth really seriously. And we want to ensure that our students are properly cared for by looking at housing needs, by working with local governments, and add more housing, and improving existing housing, and enacting the Affordable Housing Act, which will ensure secure, adequate, affordable housing for all Canadians. And adding more childcare spaces and capping daycare costs at $15 a day. And lowering interest rates on student loans and working with Indigenous communities to ensure our students are well cared for.
Thank you. Ms. Wyman?
On the issue of post-secondary accessibility and why people aren't able to go to university, it seems to me that the #1 issue would be affordability. We're seeing now a lot of challenges with people trying to save enough money up to send their kids to university, and as well, if you want to go to school, being able to afford not only the tuition and living expenses, but then being able to not work while you're in school. So we have a high youth unemployment rate. It's 3 times that of the adults. We have students unable to save. We have middle-class families unable to save. We have people not saving for retirement, which is why our plan to kickstart the economy with the middle-class tax cut, Canadian Child Benefit, which will benefit 9 out of 10 Canadian families, and cancelling some of the conservative plans, for example, doubling the tax-free savings account. Only 8% of Canadians are able to actually maximize their contribution to tax-free savings account. Most people are trying to save for retirement and university, and they can't do it. So between that, plus our $60 billion investment in infrastructure to kickstart the economy, increase the number of people at work, and get everybody working, everyone having extra money, everyone being able to save, that's going to help more people go to university. By 2020, we're going to be short 1 million skilled jobs. So we need more people to be able to afford to go to school and fill those jobs. And a local government would also work with the post-secondary institutions to make sure that internationally trained professionals are able to get the skills that they need here in the education and get them into the workforce, which is another solution. And lastly, we know that the First Nations are the fastest growing segment of our population, and the Liberal government would invest $2.6 billion in closing the funding gap there and for education, and get First Nations students educated and into the workforce as well.
Thank you very much. We all know that education is a critical way out of poverty. We know that education is expensive, it can be, and that's why we made very, very certain that we have made Canada student loans much more accessible than they've been ever before in the history of Canada. We've done that by alleviating some of the expectations on parental expectations involved in that. You can now get student loans if you own a car as well, and that we know that many of you need that to be able to get commute to university as well, or community colleges. You can also get these kind of student loans at community colleges now, as opposed to only universities before, and they're available for some of the shorter term courses that are available. I know that we're talking about Brandon University here today as well, and that means that we can, I want to make sure that you know that whether you're going to Brandon University or a community college, that these are interest-free while you're attending university as well. You can earn more at a job that you would have and still be accessible, or and still have student loans accessible. These are many changes that have helped students be able to get those loans. I know, as I said earlier, that education can be expensive. We know that tuitions need to be kept affordable, as affordable as possible, and we've implemented a couple of other things, the textbook, the tuition textbook, tax credit for that, and we've exempted scholarships from income tax, so that for those of you fortunate enough to have those, you don't have to pay tax on those as well. I think it's important that we keep transfer payments up to provinces, because provinces are the ones that help deliver education in our province, and we know that that's a very important part of making sure that not only we've balanced the budget, we've got the lowest taxes in 50 years in Canada, federal taxes, but keeping the transfer payments up to provinces, unlike what was done in the 90s, is certainly a benefit to Manitoba and being able to help a place like Brandon University right here as well. So growing our economy, keeping jobs in place is important so that you have good jobs when you graduate.
Thank you. Mr. Defoe?
Before we continue, may I ask if you deal with the center, you can see the power of this. I can hear Mr. McGuire has a lot of speaking. And you heard that are taking so much to make you all the persons are
It wouldn't hurt if this one was adjusted further out, so it'll really. Yes, affordability is definitely the issue as far as the Green Party is concerned, and we see poverty as increasing in Canada. I'm not sure if you're aware of the income gap in Canada according to Gini coefficient. It's risen quite a bit in the last while, particularly through the Liberal years. So I don't know if the Liberals are really trusted to be able to address poverty in Canada. And the Conservative, of course, in the last few years have made that rise very steeply as well. 18 families in Canada own as much wealth as 13 or 11 million Canadians at the bottom of the income scale. So trickle down has not worked anywhere in the world, really. So we have to start working on the trickle up, where people in poverty have to have enough income to be able to definitely go to school, to be able to improve their own lot. And we're suggesting that by 2020, we consider no tuition fees for the first 2 years of post-secondary education, whether that be in ACC, BU here in Brandon, and that there be very generous bursaries for the poorest, and definitely that we reach towards equal access for all to post-secondary education.
Thank you. Would any of you like to rebut any of the candidates' comments? 30-second rebuttal. You don't have to if you don't wish to. It's totally up to you.
Well, I would just like to ask, there's a situation where the Liberals are going to cancel these increased tax-free savings accounts, and that's just one more tool. We know that we've got our ESPs in place for helping students be able to go to university in the future from families. Families are using TFSAs. I don't think many students do as from that perspective, obviously, yet, but there's an opportunity there for those to be used for families to help students go to university. And I just wondered, because those dollars are taken out tax-free, as we know, because the taxes are paid going in, and I just want to ask Jody why they would think that it's important to do that, just because they need those funds to pay for their unfunded election promises.
The tax-free savings account in place right now allows people to put money aside when they've already used up their RSP contributions. So these are people who not only have made enough money in the year to not have debt when we have record Canadian household debt, they've also been able to contribute to their RSPs and use the tax advantage, and they have so much money left over that they've been able to max out a $5,000 tax-free savings account. And as I said, that's 8% of the population is able to do that. Middle class, the rest of us working, aren't able to do that. And so our tax plan benefits 9 out of 10 families instead of the 8% for the tax-free savings account.
Ms. Wostasiewicz, be patient.
Yeah, I was wondering about the investment Trudeau had promised for First Nations education over the next 4 years. It was an investment of $2.6 billion, but it was cut to $900 million. So that's a cut of $1.7 billion, or 65% less. So I was just wondering how that can be explained.
Maybe we can have just a quick rebuttal to that, if you wish, and then we'll move on to the next question.
So the Harper Conservative government committed $1.7 billion to close the education gap for First Nations students. They haven't spent that yet. That's part of the money that laps back into general coffers to balance their budget. They want the First Nations to sign over authority. So that money is still sitting there. A Liberal government would add $900 million to it, which is a total of $2.6 billion, which would go to the First Nations with authority to spend the money in accordance with how they would like, as opposed to being dictated to. So that's where the $2.6 billion comes from. It's certainly not a cut. We're adding to the money already promised, but unspent.
Mr. Neufeld, is there any comments you'd like to make? I should give you an opportunity.
I think the elephant in the room here is climate change and how that changes how we expect our young people to prepare for the future. The Green Party is taking a very clear-eyed look at that and saying we need people particularly skilled in research, in the sciences, in innovation for technology, and particularly building the renewable energy economy that we know is coming our way.
Thank you. I'll now ask our second question, and Ms. Wyman, you'll be the lead candidate to answer this one first, and then again we'll work through the order. Currently, average student debt in Canada is roughly $27,000 per graduate, and total public and private debt is reaching $29 billion. What would you and your party do to address the student debt crisis?
The student debt crisis is something that I'm quite familiar with. I graduated $30,000 in debt. It took me 10 years to pay it all off, and that was while working full-time nights while I was in school too. So I do understand the importance of not being buried in debt when you graduate. When I started going to university, there were ample grants available in Ontario, which I took advantage of. And it's all well and good to increase some of the eligibility for student loans, but we need to focus on the grants as well, money that doesn't have to be paid back. A Liberal government would double the eligibility for the student grants for low-income students and increase the maximum amount to $3,000 for full-time students and $1,800 for part-time students. So that's investing $750 million in grants for students to help with the cost. And also creating a policy that students don't have to start paying back their student loans until they're making at least $25,000 a year. So if it's taking some time to get a job that allows you to pay back the debt, you have that time. It's extremely important. And also investing $50 billion in a program that's largely been ignored by the Harper Conservative government for post-secondary student support program. And that helps First Nation students go to university. Very important program, and so we would be investing $50 billion in additional money to that program as well.
Thank you. Mr. McGuire?
Yes, thank you very much. All of the things that I indicated earlier are very, very important, I think, to helping reduce student debt as much as we possibly can. It's very important that we try to graduate students with the least amount of debt that they possibly can. And that's why Canada student loans, being more accessible with low interest rates today in our economy, are very important. But we've also been able to bring forward the Canada Jobs Grants, which are for those who are wanting to be trained in a specific area. The federal government will put up $10,000 towards that student's education, as well as when combined with an employer who puts up $5,000. And this is very, very important because the benefits of that are that you can have supplemental wages while you're, it replaces the supplemental wages that you might not have had while you were working to go to university, if you're already in an apprenticeship or a training area. But it also helps pay such loans off more immediately when you are able to graduate, because you are filling the skills gap that we have by working with someone that has already got a job for you when you graduate. And that's key. I think having a job when you graduate is one of the key things that government should be involved in, making sure that there's opportunities for you there. That's why it's so important to keep taxes low. We get the lowest taxes, as I said, federally in 50 years. And that helps small businesses grow and expand. So when they do that, they can hire more people when they graduate into the high-paying jobs that are there. And trade is an important aspect of that from a general perspective. Canada has signed over 50 free trade agreements since they came into power, and we are now in a situation where that trade is making high-paying jobs. Most of those jobs in the trade areas of the world come from the processing, manufacturing, and right here in Brandon, we've got processing and manufacturing in some of our industries that do allow for many more high-paying jobs. So I really think that those are important. Stability in our economy creates those jobs, and I look forward to working with anyone who has more ideas and things that we should do in those areas, but these are very concrete efforts to make sure that you've got a job when you graduate.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld?
Thank you. Yes, Manitoba just this last summer canceled all interest on student loans, and we would suggest that that should happen countrywide. We have a national program of helping students pay off their loans by taking off the interest. As I said earlier, we want to eliminate the tuition fees, so that would of course take care of a lot of debt for the first 2 years, and also try to maintain a ceiling. We're suggesting $10,000 of debt when you leave with your first degree, that you are ready to hit the ground running and not burdened by too much debt. We think that this is about leadership as much as about money. I think the federal government is in a wonderful place in Canada to offer leadership, to help institutions, help provinces, help families to realize what's coming over the horizon. And that's the kind of leadership that we're not getting right now from our federal government.
So some of the ways we see helping the unemployment rates lower is helping to create tens of thousands of jobs in both private and public sectors. And working with private sector employees and nonprofits, this program will ensure the creation of 40,000 jobs, co-op placements, and internships for youth. And the NDP will also bring in a requirement for youth apprenticeships in all major federally owned infrastructure and public works projects. And also, we would amend the Canada Labour Code to ensure that you're treated fairly. So we'll ensure that the abuse of unpaid internships in federal jurisdiction stops, making sure that you're paid fairly and receive important workplace protections, the same protections as other workers receive. And the changes would also restrict the so-called two-tier provisions in employment contracts that leave young workers in a disadvantaged sometimes. We would also provide direct investment to support young farmers, to ensure opportunities for Canada's young farmers and support the long-term sustainability of our rural communities. We would invest $85 million towards flexible startup programs and direct capital support towards access and down payment programs. We would also provide recruitment and training grants for better health care. So NTP will deliver federal recruitment and training grants ranging from $15,000 to $50,000, helping to hire up to 7,000 doctors, nurse practitioners, and other providers. And students can apply while studying to help cover their tuition fees and return service after graduation, or international graduates can also apply with the same return of service provision.
Thank you. Would any of you like a brief rebuttal to any of the comments? Okay, then I will ask the third question, and Mr. McGuire, we'll begin with you. What would you, your party, do to address climate change?
Great. Well, this has always been a concern of mine because I was a conservation critic, I guess, in the Manitoba legislature for 4 years, as well as farmed in Albion all my life. And I believe that climate change and also land management, looking after our air and water and protecting our water quality, are key issues to our success as a future in our countries and around the world. They're all interconnected. My father used to tell me on the land that when I was farming that if you look after the land, it'll look after you, and I truly believe that. And the same goes for our other, for air and water as well. We've done a lot of things in regards to protecting our air quality in Canada. We've got vehicles that are, we've increased the emissions controls on, regulated them to be more environmentally friendly. We've also put regulations in place to remove as many harmful toxins from manufacturing and other areas as we possibly can. And we've got new ways of providing energy efficiencies in our homes and our buildings that we're dealing with, and new controls for those. I also believe that as we move forward, it's important to look at wetland management. And I've been able to make an announcement here at Ducks Unlimited at the Discovery Center this past summer to be able to make sure that we've put land packages in place to be able to help do that as well. And one of the things that I've been really happy about is I've been able to champion the formation of the Assiniboine River Basin Initiative, which really helps to make sure that we've got a holistic management approach to water quality and water management in our whole region, so that we can have much better control of the quality and the movement of water in our whole region. So I understand the importance of the land and our air and our water quality, and it's the environment we live in, so we have to make sure we do everything we can to make sure that it's looked after well. And I look at any of the ideas that anyone else may have here as well to be able to help me with other ideas locally that we can use, but I think we have to extend those across our country as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Newford?
A lot of those ideas are coming from May, and we have refused to invite her to international gatherings. Bill C-45 took the protection off of 99% of our lakes in Canada. Oil sands continue to be the dirtiest supply of oil, and your government continues to put $1.5 billion of subsidies towards that oil. We continue to want to move oil across very hazardous areas like the mountains or through the prairies or right across Canada, even though it's been proven to we have 100 spills per year in Manitoba alone. And the government has put no money towards renewable energy experimentation and innovation. The Green Party, of course, is all about the reverse. We also want to emphasize the importance of evidence-based decision-making and put our scientists back in a seat and able to speak publicly. Equal Justice has just put out its report. The Green Party is the best of all these four in proposing a way for Canada forward through climate to address climate change. 40% reductions in greenhouse gases from 2005 by 2025, and 80% from the 1990 levels by 2050. And we're looking forward to the Paris conference, and Canada sending Elizabeth May plus people that are in good authority on this subject to represent Canada in a very positive way.
David. In a lot of respects, in the last 10 years, the Conservatives have dismantled the laws protecting our air, land, and especially our water. And they've hidden their attacks in budget bills and targeting the Navigable Waters Protection Act, the Environmental Assessment Act, and the Species at Risk Act and the Fisheries Act. They've muzzled or fired scientists working on environmental research, and they've handed billions of dollars of subsidies to their friends in the fossil fuel industry. So what we will establish is a national water strategy in collaboration with provinces, territories, and municipalities and First Nations. And will enshrine access to clean water as a human right and show leadership on global water issues, including the protection of access to safe water for all. And that's really important for our Indigenous communities. Water is a public resource, not a commodity, and we will ban bulk water exports. We will also strengthen environmental assessment criteria to ensure that projects are subject to a thorough and credible review before they are allowed to proceed. We can't approve projects without restoring meaningful public participation and considering all impacts of the project, including climate impacts. Will it reduce Canada's reliance on fossil fuels and support energy efficiency and conservation? Will implement a cap-and-trade system that puts a price on carbon and ensures meaningful emissions reductions? Will kickstart our clean energy sector to make Canada a global market leader, and will eliminate the Conservatives' subsidies to the fossil fuel industry? And will restore Canada's international reputation on the environment. Only Tom Mulcair and the NDP have committed to showing up the climate meeting in Paris this November with climate change targets and a plan.
Thank you. All right. The Liberal Party has a really great, if I'm biased of course, but a really great plan for the environment that also takes into account the economy. It's important that we get our natural resources to market, but in a sustainable way. And not only do we have a comprehensive and ambitious plan, we also have years of experience in government to know what's possible, what can be done, and the Liberal Party has the momentum to actually implement this plan. $20 billion of our $60 billion infrastructure investment would be aimed at clean technologies, including climate-resistant infrastructure and that sort of thing. It also would offer green bonds, so companies who are looking at green technology and environmentally friendly projects would have the ability to apply for Canadian green bonds. We've committed $200 million to sector-specific environmentally friendly technologies, so that would apply to the egg industry here. And the Liberal Party has committed to, if forming government, attend the Paris Climate Change Conference as well. The Liberal Party is also committed to, within 90 days of forming government, sitting down with the provinces and forming a national framework to address climate change and to fulfill our G20 commitment to phase out fossil fuels. So we need to follow through on the commitments we've already made, plus we need to invest in innovation and become a leader in Canada on green technologies and restore our place in the world, and pay attention to the infrastructure as well, which is part and parcel to all this. We need a Canadian energy strategy, and we need to sit down with the US and with Mexico to have a North American plan for climate change, and that's exactly what a Liberal government would be committed to do. And locally, it's important. The Assiniboine Basin Initiative is an extremely important project, but without any federal funding, there's very little that can be done with it.
Thank you. Would any of you like a brief rebuttal? Mr. Neufeld?
Melissa said the NDP is the only one with a proposal for Paris. And of course the Greens have a very well thought through proposal.
Anyone else? Okay, then we'll move on to our fourth question, and we'll begin this question with Mr. Neufeld. Youth unemployment rates hover around 13%, and underemployment rates are even higher. How would you and your party address the issue of youth and underemployment?
By stimulating jobs. Right now, the youth unemployment in Canada is 3 times that of the general population. It's the only sector that has not recovered, at least fairly well, from the 2008-2009 recession. And now we've just been going through another recession. So the Conservative government hasn't addressed that sector of our population. So young people find yourselves in a catch-22 where you need to have good experience from a job in order to get a better job, and you're not getting that first job in a lot of cases if you don't have experience. So we would like to increase people's desire for trade skills as well as for the more cerebral and research-based jobs. Because we're going to need a lot of skilled people, as Europe has found out, as they've gone through the renewable energy experiment, and successfully there, they have decided to take tuition off of school for the first couple of years because they have needed more and more young people to join the ranks of students. We would offer $1 billion a year to municipalities to hire more students for summer jobs, but also for long-term jobs to build for green jobs, for improving quality of life in our communities, working with seniors, improving our parks, because we think it's about quality of life and that we all feel like we're part of strong communities and contributing to our local communities, not to an international trade community as much. So there's a lot of retrofitting that has to be done to get ready for a solar and wind power based economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Wostowski.
I think I answered this. So we would help to create tens of thousands of jobs for young Canadians in both private and public sectors. And we would amend the Canada Labour Code to ensure that young Canadians are treated fairly. That's through internships, paid and unpaid internships, and provide direct investment to support young farmers. That was the $85 million investment towards flexible startup programs and direct capital support towards access and employment programs, and provide recruitment and training grants for better healthcare, which would be the recruitment and training grants that would range from $15,000 to $50,000, helping to hire up to 7,000 doctors, nurse practitioners, and other providers.
Thank you. Ms. Wyman?
The Liberal government would be committed to investing $1.3 billion in creating new youth employment. It's extremely important that we invest money in that immediately and get students working, get youth working. That includes increasing the number of Canada summer jobs by 35,000 each year. Also, there's a Skills Link program that helps youth who may have some challenges in finding employment. So we would double the number of Canadians who qualify for the Skills Link program, create 5,000 green youth jobs. That would be guides, interpreters, in national parks. We're committed to investing and reversing the cuts made to our national parks. And that includes youth jobs as well. And committing $40 million to co-op placements, like in math and science, extremely important that we reinvest in science, and also expand the pre-apprenticeship training programs because we need the skilled workers, as we indicated. And also waiving the EI premiums for 12 months on any new hire of a youth. So if an employer will hire a youth, they don't have to pay EI premiums for a full year. So that should encourage youth employment as well. So you combine that with the $60 billion in infrastructure investment, which would start the first year that the Liberals become the government, to get the economy going, kickstart the jobs, invest in youth jobs a little more specifically, and we should be able to reverse the trend of the high youth unemployment.
Thank you. Mr. McGuire?
Thank you very much. This is an extremely important role for government. As I said earlier, the government's role is to be able to create an environment where businesses can thrive and jobs can be created. That's an important role so that we can do everything we can to reduce the youth employment well below that 13% level. We've also created about 1.3 million new jobs since that recession in 08, which was a significant world recession. We've also been able to recover from that more quickly than any of the G7 countries. We've done it by keeping business taxes low. We're reducing the business taxes down to 9%. And it's easy for the others to say that they'll do that, but we've already done it. And so we've also been able to have the largest, we've done it, well, we've had the largest Building Canada plan in history for the largest infrastructure program, as I said, $85 million. We've reduced red tape so businesses can reinvest in their businesses to create more jobs. We've lowered the EI premiums by 21%, is an election promise coming up here as well. And I've talked to Jason Thorpe right here in Brandon with Thorpe Construction, and he indicated that the payroll taxes that the Liberals would bring in would cost his business about $30,000 a year coming in. But that doesn't create jobs in Brandon, ladies and gentlemen. That kills them. And those are things that we want to make sure that we continue to stimulate the economy by keeping these taxes low, balancing our budgets, and moving forward in that environment with a sound business environment. So small businesses can increase and create the jobs, as I said earlier, that you need to have when you graduate. I'm also proud to be able to invest in a place like Brandon University right here at Assiniboine Community College. We've been able to invest in the innovation zone right here, put the 3D printer in place. There's 2 of them here. You students can have the opportunity of seeing them, but every business person, every individual in our region can have access to those types of things that are build prototypes for any kind of manufacturing or system that you need right here. And I think it's important that we grow around the university. I get a chance to brag about having both a university and a community college in our region. Most members of parliament don't have that. I look forward to being able to work with anyone to be able to continue to have more of these ideas in place as well.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a brief rebuttal? Ms. Wyman?
The Liberal government is also committed to reducing the employment insurance premiums. They've been frozen at an artificially high rate of $1.88. We would lower it to $1.65, while at the same time strengthening employment insurance, cutting the wait time in half, and making it more accessible to people returning into the workforce, people who've been off looking after children or going to school. So we would strengthen it while also lowering the EI premiums.
Mr. Newfeld?
There's the overarching problem here of debt, and that neither the Liberals or the Conservatives are paying their bills. Well, obviously the Liberals did better than the Conservatives for a while, but we have $600 billion worth of debt and $30 billion that we pay every year on that debt. And the Conservative government has increasingly added to that debt by going into deficit, I think 8 years in a row. So their hand on the tiller, their steady hand on the economy, perhaps is driving the car without any wheels on it.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll ask my 5th question, and I'd like to note that this question was contributed to our debate today by the YWCA here in Brandon, and we're going to begin with Ms. Westasic for this question. What will your party do to address the factors that contribute to violence against women and homelessness? How would your party improve the economic status of women, for example, in the area of pay equity?
I just want to mention that, NDP, we have 43% of our candidates are women, and I'm really proud to be one of those women. That reflects our deep commitment to women. And we have a really long and proud history for fighting for women's equality, and we continue to work to improve the lives of women and girls. And Tom Mulcair has always been clear about his personal commitment to ensure that women's issues are a priority in all of our work. That's why when the NDP's deep commitment to women is reflected in our candidates, but we're also committed to implementing proportional representation, which has been shown to boost the number of female representatives. What's more, our policies are developed and analyzed through a gender-based lens. That's why so much of our work advances women's critical priorities. For example, Tom Malcare's affordable $15 day childcare plan will help families pay for childcare and help ensure that women have the ability to enter and stay in the workforce. And we're committed to fighting violence against women. After decades of conservative and liberal governments, violence against women is still a serious concern, and that's why an NDP government will make sure that no woman in need is turned away from a shelter. We'll restore the shelter enhancement program that was eliminated by the Conservatives with funding of $40 million over 4 years. And we'll invest more in affordable housing and homelessness programs so that when women and children need to leave a violent household, they'll have a place to go and call home. I have personal experience with that. What's more, an NDP government will call an inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women in their first 100 days in office, which is really important to me personally. We stand for fully funded reproductive health services across Canada and will reverse the conservative cuts to those services once we form government. And we've worked hard to make sure women are more financially secure. Our 2015 election announcements reflect this commitment. We'll bring back the federal minimum wage and we'll restore the age of eligibility for old age security to 65 and increase the GIS to senior women so they don't fall into poverty. And I just want to say that I wouldn't be running here today if it wasn't the support from the NDP covering my wages. I just want to have the ability to do this. So thank you.
I had the privilege of spending 6 years on the YWCA board, 4 years as president, and for the last 3.5 years I've been on the Women's Resource Center board, the last 2 as board chair. So I've spent a lot of time advocating for funding for domestic violence and for marginalized women. If anyone tells you that they know the cause of domestic violence or the solution to it, they're wrong. It's an extremely complex issue, and that's why there's no one magic solution. The federal government would work with advocates and women and experts and the provinces to develop a national gender violence strategy and action plan. We have to do this in conjunction with the provinces. And we're taking that into account as well with the Canadian Child Benefit, which is a higher tax-free benefit for families, our major investment in affordable housing, and the child care strategy should assist as well. We also reinstitute the level 5 census, so we have the data we need to address these issues, and we would also call an inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. We're not going to be able to provide solutions until we know some of the causes of the problems. It's absolutely crucial that we investigate. We would also increase investments in women's shelters and transition houses as part of our investment in social infrastructure. And taking into account gender equality as well, the Liberal Party was very committed to getting 30% of its candidates to be female. They launched a whole Ask a Woman to Run campaign. And Justin Trudeau has committed to having equal numbers of men and women in cabinet. It will be a 50-50 ratio as well to help increase the presence of women in politics. And although tough on crime isn't an answer to really any problem, the Liberal government would also reverse the onus on bail for repeat offenders for domestic violence and would increase the maximum sentence for repeat offenders as well. So we can tighten up the criminal code in that respect, but it can't be the only solution. Thank you. Mr. McGuire?
Thank you as well. I think we can all agree that we need to make sure we do everything we possibly can to eliminate or stop the cycle of poverty and to end violence against women. I believe that the best way of pulling people out of poverty, as an example, is to make sure that they've got a good job and explain the things that we're doing to be able to make sure we accomplish that. We also need to be able to make sure that we continue to put investments into our communities because that supports homes and women and job opportunities as well. So firstly, regarding violence against women, I'd like to say that our government has nearly doubled the amount of dollars put forward in those community-based projects. We've put nearly $70 million invested specifically to prevent violence against women. And with respect to women in the workforce, we've taken many measures to be able to encourage women to get into skilled, more skilled trades and technical professions as well. We've created an economic advisory council with leaders from both the private and public sectors, so that in order to promote more participation by women in corporate boards. And as an example, 40% of our senior executives in our government are now female, and 21% of Canadian corporations' boards of directors are female as well. We know there's more work to be done, but let me say this. In 1981, the hourly wage for women was 77% of what it was for men at that time. And now, in 2011, it was 87%. And we've closed the gap that much. There's more to do, and I'll continue to work hard on this. We have to pay equity throughout our society. I think that's important that we do that. The other side of it is homelessness. And that's the question, and that's very necessary to provide an opportunity for people to be able to grow and train and work in confidence and get a better job. We've put $600 million forward in Canada to help with the homelessness situation, and we put $5.7 million of that right here in the announcement made with the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation. I'm quite proud of those efforts, and we need to make sure that we continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Newell?
I don't know if any of you remember when the first Ms. magazine came out. That was back in the 70s, early 70s. My mother was a charter subscriber to that magazine. She set herself apart in very conservative boys in the community. My father was very embarrassed that it would come publicly into the mailbox, but he became very gracious about it as he saw the benefits in his life and his children's lives to have a woman's liver, what we called them in those days. And that fight was well fought by many, many women in Canada. But we still have a situation where women's wages on average are 71 cents to the man's dollar. If you're a visual minority, it's 64 cents to the man's dollar. If you're an Aboriginal woman, it's $46 to the man's dollar. If there's a situation that's broken, this is it. And I don't think the Conservatives or Larry have done enough to fix it. We have to all fix this. This is really important that we just treat ourselves as each other as equals. I was really thought to be an odd person when I decided to be the homemaker in our family for the first years of our children's lives. Maggie just wanted to be out and about teaching. She was either pregnant or breastfeeding for 7 years, and she said, "That's enough." And so she walked out the door, and I said, "Yes, I can be Mr. Mom." I just loved those years with my kids, being there for them when they came home from school. And of course, we've evolved into that situation now. What I'm saying is it's flexible, right? Let's not just say this is this and this is that. We have to work with each other. It's all about relationships in our society. So let's just make sure they're equal.
Okay, thank you. I see that we've sadly almost run out of time, so I think we'll just move on to closing statements at this point. And we will begin in the reverse order from the opening statement. So that means, Mr. McGuire, we'll begin with you, and it'll be 1 minute.
Well, I just want to thank you very much to Brandon University and the Federation of Students' Union for being able to host this debate today. It's been very important. You've done a really good job, I think, of putting forward a number of key questions that affect all of us in society today. I just want to close by saying that as I said earlier, education is one of the most important jobs of any government. It's an important job to be able to make sure that education facilities are available, such as Brandon University. And it's, we live in a great country. We have a wonderful part of Canada here in Westman, and I believe it's a safe part of Westman. We need to make sure that we continue to create jobs, and I've explained how we'll do that, keeping taxes low, balancing budgets, and making sure that you've got opportunities. We need to have the training that you'll need to get a job, to be successful. And I think there's a big link here in making sure that the jobs that are available, that you are training for, that you have that opportunity to move right into the workforce when you're finished. I'm proud to be able to work with Brandon University here as well, as I said earlier, and I just want to make sure that we continue to work with collaboratively so that we can continue to build on the opportunities that are right here in our region. And I ask for your vote on October 19th to be able to continue to do that together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wyman?
This is my first political campaign, but I'm learning one thing. You know when your party is doing well when you start to get attacked. The Harper Conservatives have been attacking Justin Trudeau almost since the campaign began, before actually. And more recently, the Mulcair NDP have joined in as well. And that's because the Liberal platform is resonating with Canadians. It's collaborative, it's comprehensive, it's compassionate, it's fully costed out, it's all available online, and it addresses exactly what we need. Canadians, including high-profile NDP and Conservatives and experts, have gone on board. They're seeing the Liberal Party as the best choice nationally. And even locally, our Green candidate here has departed from his party's principles and has been attacking me on social media. And that's because the local Liberal plan is resonating here as well. Take a look at the polls and take a look at the 2013 by-election results. It's clear that in Manitoba especially, the anyone but Conservative vote rests with the Liberal Party. I've been fighting for clients, I've been speaking out for our marginalized population for almost 20 years. I can fight for the people in this riding in Ottawa, especially if the Liberal Party forms government, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us here today. It's really important to see and speak to all of you. I just want to reiterate, that as a Cree woman, I really believe in that kind of holistic viewpoint and worldview. And taking into account all like our mental, physical, spiritual health, and I think NDP really encompasses a lot of that. And you can go look at our website again, take a look at our platform, and I think we all know that this election is really important. And take a look at Tom Mulcair and the NDP, and we have a chance here to give our country a really fresh new start. Positive change for all of us. And, in the NDP, we only need 35 seats to defeat Harper, which would be really great. And I'm really happy to have ties here with the faculty, staff, and students at Brandon University. Thank you.
I pointed out on social media that the local Liberal candidate was embracing Bill C-51, or at least their party's support for that with the Conservatives. I'm sorry if that's an attack. That was not my intent to attack you personally for sure, but simply to point out the differences between the Green Party and the Liberal Party. We have an excellent platform that you can Google. It's just Google Green Party platform. It's actually a very inspiring read. We have a 5-year well-costed, balanced budget paper that's peer-reviewed by economics professors. So there's lots more that you're going to get on the Green Party website. So we're all about democracy. We want to just try to assert that we get a hold of our decision-making bodies, and within a minority government, the Green Party can have a very positive influence on how decisions are made in Canada. So we encourage you to get informed. We know that you'll vote Green if you are informed, and we encourage you to vote big.
I would just like to thank all of our candidates for not only participating here today, but for putting your name forward and running. Certainly we as citizens depend on people coming forward, and it's important to democracy, so thank you. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming today as well, staff, students, and community members. Hopefully we will be doing this again provincially. We have a provincial election coming up in the spring, so lots of opportunities to get out there and vote, and make sure you vote on Monday. Thank you.